Welcome back to the morning show on Tobago Updates Television. We're now at 7:52 a.m. So if you're making it to work for 8, you might be a little bit late. But remember to drive safely on our nation's roads to get the children to school and yourself to work for 8 a.m. We continue conversations this morning in studio with our Chief Secretary, the Honourable Farley Chavez Augustine. And we segued a little bit there into our budget. And it brings me to my next line of questioning. Of course, we must talk about the reshuffle, the recent reshuffle of the Tobago House of Assembly administration, where we saw assistant secretaries being reshuffled across divisions, and of course one secretary being transitioned to assistant secretary. And so of course we had a lot of speculations. People have their own opinions on this, but what I want to ask this morning is, there are many reasons that one can have a reshuffle in any organization, whether it's government, whether you have your own company, your own business, and you want to redeploy your resources. In this instance, what was your motivation, or what was your guiding points for the reshuffle at this particular point in time?
Well, the key consideration is about how do we redeploy resources that will maximize success, that will increase on the levels of success. We have at our disposal essentially 13 elected members and 3 councillors. So there are 16 individuals that we have at our disposal to be utilized. And so after 2.5 years is a good time to, I think, to pause, to look back at what we have achieved, look at where the failures were, and look at how do we now increase the levels of success over the next 1.5 years. And so I think it's strategically the best time to make the move, and it's about putting people to double down on their levels of service for the island of Tobago. We also we were very careful to also itemize in a very detailed way how we are going to utilize the assistant secretaries and the roles to which they were given. Now, in the past, I know past governments of the island left assistant secretaries to just be there because the law doesn't quite specify their role and function in any great detail. And certainly they don't have what we may term signing power, meaning they can't sign approvals for stuff because the law doesn't allow them to do that. But certainly the law allows them to lead in terms of execution of some projects on the island, and we have seen and experienced that across the island. So for example, when we saw the increased levels in terms of rural electrification, when you're driving between Spacer and Chavez and there are street lights there, and you exercise going up French Fort and you see street lights so you could exercise later into the evening, that's really part of the work that Assistant Secretary Niall George did while he was across at settlements. When you look, for example, at the fact that we have not had a protest from the bus drivers that transport school children for a while, and that they all have contracts and so on. That was led by Assistant Secretary Kerr out of the Division of Education. When we look at the work that URP was doing, including branching out into agriculture and so on, that was Assistant Secretary Samson.
So we can clearly say it's not a case of incompetence.
No, it's not a case of incompetence. It's about also spreading the talent around. Because you will find among or within the team, people having varying talents. Might be more than 1, 2, 3, and so on. And so sometimes you want to just be able to shift the talents around in different places so that you will have similar growth in different places. It also allows for us to increase focus in some areas. So for example, Assistant Secretary Craig, who is now under the office of the Chief Secretary, and you see he has now a much more weighted responsibility treating with environmental issues, is because we want to maximize some of the opportunities there. We have been discussing for the longest while getting the island to stop using plastic bags, for example. Since about 2017, the former regime passed a motion about not having styrofoam. And I see you have a styrofoam cup this morning. But not having styrofoam, not have use of styrofoam. That requires a certain kind of re-education of the public, and implementing of such social change requires strategic and a hands-on approach, which never happened before. That's why the styrofoam thing didn't go anywhere. And then recently I was party to the as a witness to the signing of Trinidad and Tobago for the first time doing carbon credits, and Tobago leading the country with carbon credits. So again, we needed to make the environment focus in a much more heightened manner. So that allows for us to do that. Then when we look at infrastructure, for example, in infrastructure, that place needs some additional prayers. And I say that not even in the most jocular way. When we look at the issue when it comes to productivity, we hear the complaint all the time. Oh, the workers come out, they just scratch the side of the road, they don't work for long, they're putting in enough work, they're leaving all the stuff on the side of the road. And whether we're getting our bang for the buck, where in terms of payment for these workers, and whether they really deliver work. They need somebody who can motivate them and push them to the next one and say, look, we have to get this done. That division has been looking at, for example, having mobile toilet facilities and so on, so the workers could work longer hours. If we had to implement that sort of policy change, I know I will get some pushback. I know the workers will complain. Because I mean, already a situation where a secretary received a petition from workers because they felt like the boss man, the foreman, and them was forcing them to stay in work too long. You know, more than half an hour, they think they're there too long. But we have to change that kind of work culture. So it's about putting people, moving people for strategic intent, and it's not about being nefarious. It's not about like some people and I like some more than I like others. It has nothing to do with that. We are all called to serve. We are elected to serve. And so it is essentially about how do we move people in the most strategic way to get the results that are required.
All right, and now we're talking, as we continue talking about the reshuffling, we also heard in that notice that we are going to receive the last budget from you as the Secretary of Finance. And so a new Secretary of Finance will be installed from the 1st of July 2024. And everybody's asking, who is this person? Who is this person? That's not my question this morning. Oh. I'm not interested to know who the person is. What I want to know is where the person is coming from. Is the person a part of the already established THA executive? Because as you mentioned, you have 13 secretaries and you also have 3 councillors, which is what you are afforded in this instance. You only allowed to have 3 councillors. All have already been assigned. How is that going to translate? Where is this person coming from? Is it a person already a part of, or are we doing a little reshuffling again, or how is it going to happen? I know I caught you off guard a little bit.
I can tell you that July 1 is the best day in the year, and it's the best day in the year because that's my birthday, right? So the best day in the year must be the 1st of July. Best month, best day in the month of the best everything in the year.
So you make the best decisions on that day?
I make the best decisions on that day. But more than that though, what I am at liberty to say to you is that the person will be a part of the team. The law requires that in order for you to be a secretary, you must be either an elected member or an appointed councillor. So certainly the person will meet those legal requirements. And that's as far as I'm prepared to say about it. But here's what I will promise you at Tobago Updates though. And I'm promising this on air, so your producer will hear me.
Good.
Right? I'm promising that I will make the announcement here first.
Thank you so much, kind sir. Viewers, you're listening.
I'll give you the privilege of making the announcement here first. July 1 is Monday, I believe. I believe it's a Monday, but I'll make the announcement here first. If July 1 is a Monday, it's a Monday.
It is.
So it means that I'll be at liberty to probably make the announcement as early as the Friday before that. In fact, by the Friday prior, we will have to submit to the Ministry of Finance the budget. It must go by the end of June, save and except there is some extenuating circumstance that prevented us from doing so. And it will go in time for the end of the month. And once I ensure that the budget is in the hand of Minister Imbert, then the other movements will take place.
We do appreciate that so much, and we look forward with bated breath, to get that type of information. And as we're talking about the Secretary of Finance and things that relate to the Division of Finance, we're talking now about the e-tender system, the OPR, and all these things that affect and impact, especially primarily small businesses on the island of Tobago, and the challenges that we faced and the long waiting periods with the installation of the OPR. Now we have e-tender, and a lot of people are confused about e-tender primarily because some of them probably don't have the technical abilities to subscribe to what is now going to be installed as a necessary a part of the procurement process for supplying any goods or services to the Tobago House of Assembly. So we want to speak to that a little bit, primarily to bring clarity to our viewers and our suppliers. And also, I was present at the when you had the sensitization there, and I know that it was mentioned that training would also be provided. So we could talk to those two aspects of the new e-tender system that is coming on board.
Oh, absolutely. So e-tender, what it means is that we are moving to a complete digital platform for all our tendering processes, which means that you can stay in the comfort of your home, you can utilize your cell phone, you can be on the beach somewhere, and you can in fact successfully submit a tender for any project being done by the Tobago House of Assembly. That allows greater accountability and the transparency in the process. So you submit electronically, and you can track the project development all electronically. So the days when you were going down to the division to put your tender in a tender box and hope that it remains in the tender box, and then you magically see a tender appear from someone who never submitted anything in the box. You don't know who submitted on time or late and all of that. Those days will be behind us because it's an electronic system. When the time is up for the tender, then the tender just closes and you're no longer allowed to submit. So there won't be any issues there. Why do we need to go to digital platforms? We need to go to digital platforms to allow for greater efficiency. We cannot have a system being operated on a paper-based system only and continue along that route forever. COVID showed us how much one issue can throw off government operations, and it caused us to run helter-skelter putting electronic systems in place. And what is sad is that post-COVID, it seems as if there is an intention by many to just go back to life as normal. And I'm saying that is counterproductive. We ought to have digital options available so that we can have a much more efficient system. And it's not just e-tender. We're also looking at EPSIP, which is our development planning framework within the public sector. We are also looking at accounts and accounting, and we want to get to the stage where you do a contract for the THA, you could track your payments electronically all along, and not trying to go into the office every Monday morning to see me check ready. You just check online and your monies get to your account via ACH and so on. A lot of that is happening now, but it's about putting Tobago in a place where Tobago surpasses even Estonia and other territories that have utilized digital platforms to transform the way they govern. E-platforms allow us to even further democratize the government options, because we'll go to e-government platforms soon as well. And this is something that was discussed when we had the town hall meeting in Moriah, where we looked at whether or not there are models by which you can stay wherever you are and suggest topics and questions to be answered and debated in the House by government officials. So we are also exploring moving to e-government platforms across in the Division of Health. Very soon they will roll out e-platform, so all of their social welfare programs. So you're talking about e-wallet systems. So we do away with this food card thing. So yeah, nobody to ever come and boast about having 400 food card in their back pocket that they could give out like Santa Claus. That won't happen again. We're talking also about people, your house got burnt and you need to apply for the grants. Why those persons have to journey into Scarborough, go to health, go across to settlements, go to police, go to fires, trying to pull their business together. Those things should become digitized so that your house burned down fine, your neighbor have Wi-Fi, somebody in the village have Wi-Fi, a cousin, auntie, and then have Wi-Fi. You go, you sit down there, and you engage the process. And the social workers will be the ones to leave the office and come to you and to investigate the matter. And without you having to go back to the office physically, monies can be transferred to your bank accounts, or the e-wallet with the barcode can be sent to you. And you go to the supermarket with your phone, and you just scan your payment systems and so on. So we are heading in that direction. There is no turning back. And let me also say this for the conservative Christian community like myself. We are not bringing the mark of the beast to you. We are not asking you to put anything in your forehead or your hand palm or anything of that sort. We are not going crazy. But we are creating systems that will allow for efficient rollout of government programs and initiatives and allow you, the public, to effortlessly interact with the government in the most democratic fashion. And we're doing it not just because we are in office, but we're putting those systems in place for the future. As it is right now, we are running out of storage space. Where we should have offices, we have piles and piles and piles of paper and documents that there from before you and I were born, just there collecting dust, just piles of it. We have a government quarters up the fort, paper all the way to the roof, I'm discussing with the chief at us purchasing containers and retrofitting them to create a storage facility just for paper. We will never ever be able to afford storing paper for the rest of our lifetime. The older we become as a country, the more paper we will accumulate. It just does not make sense keeping all of that paper around. One fire. If we get one fire in one of those offices we have, then we will have scores of people who can't collect the gratuity when they retire and all sorts of stuff because all the documents burn up. But those things should be digitized. Those things should be held in the cloud somewhere, held at a data bank somewhere, as opposed to only being on paper. So it's about moving the THA to that direction, which is a very practical and pragmatic approach.
And of course, the way forward, that's the way the world is going now. And of course, it's more accessible, easier, and less stress and less fuss. And now we want to talk about the OPR aspect, because a lot of people now have been questioning, now that we have the e-tender system that is easier, we do this, do we still need to be OPR registered? And so we want to answer that question and to bring clarity and to differentiate between the two and to see how they work together in synergy.
Oh, absolutely. Now, the law requires you to be OPR registered. That is the law. The e-tender simply replaces our tender processes within the THA. As it is right now, you register with OPR and then you come and you physically drop off your tenders. Except for EID Cut, as an example, that has been using e-tender platform from TSCT for a little while. But right now, for the most part, you register with OPR and then you submit your tender in paper form for the most part. What's going to happen is that you are going to keep registering with OPR, but your tenders for the THA will also be digital and will not be paper-based. Let me hasten to add that based on the regulations, if it is for a contract or a service that falls under $75,000 in value, then you have to be registered with the THA, but not necessarily with OPR. There's just a little difference because the government is saying that for those very small projects, if you are doing something for the THA for $5,000, maybe you are selling the THA toilet paper or maybe some coffee and tea and water and so on. The government is saying that it's not necessary for you to go through the hassle of being on OPR for those very, very small, those very minute projects. But once it's over $75,000 in value, you are required to be OPR registered. And while I'm at it, let me remind the Tobago business community that you also ought to be tax compliant. That you should also pay attention to your registration as your company registration. You're updating your file annually and having your audited statements and so on. Those things are critical for doing good business in a formal way. And I don't want to see Tobago businesses falling into the same trap where sometime last year, for example, we saw a businessman and a colleague of his being charged for tax fraud, for tax evasion, and so on. We don't want that to happen. So do your thing the formal and the proper way, and ensure that you operate above board.
And now I know, staying on the OPR topic, I know you have to be OPR compliant, as you mentioned, except for those businesses who are providing services that are valued less than $75,000.
Correct.
And now having to go through the OPR process, some are saying that it takes a longer time for the assessment and the approvals and all these things to happen. And sometimes you have a situation that is urgent, that you need a response, you know, at the spur of a moment, and you don't have time to go through all this red tape. Is there something in place that can facilitate that kind of, you know, speed in delivery of services or goods, as the case might be? Additionally, we've also been hearing a lot of our contractors and service providers saying that delays in pay when you do the work. Sometimes it takes forever. And I know you had a success story quite recently when the payments went out to the persons from last year. They were hastened to be paid, and that was a success story. But over the years, we have experience where, first and foremost, when you bid for a contract, of course, they're going to select the one that bids the lowest, which means that the profit margin for the supplier is very slim. And now the supplier has to wait months and months, and sometimes it rolls over into a year to collect a check that had a value last year that now does not have the same value. And now you have to run into your pocket to go and pay all the other persons that you might have subcontracted. And now you stand thinking, there's no value to this money that I'm now collecting. What is being put in place for those two instances?
Right, so for the first one, the THA provided space for the OPR to have an office in Tobago. They are located down at the Colosseum, and guess what? They are not paying the rent for there. The THA is paying the rent for that building, and we have provided a space for them. The reason for that is so that we insisted that the OPR be very close to the people, and that Tobagoans have the opportunity to just take a drive down to Crown Point, walk in an office, and have Miss Heidi and the others working in that office assist if there are hiccups, if there are issues. So I would say just go straight down to the OPR office down in Crown Point, and they will assist you. That's why they are in Tobago. As a matter of fact, I met with the head of OPR last year. We talk about the success story. I met with the head of OPR last year when she did a courtesy call on my office last year. And the first thing I asked her is, when you're bringing our office to Tobago? She said, well, you know, it's a good idea. I would like to. I said, okay, we will facilitate. And in under a year, we were able to facilitate just to ensure we could provide that additional support for service providers on the island. The second issue you mentioned has been a sort of, how to put it? It has been a bugbear on the system. It has been historical. It has happened year in, year out. Year government come, government goes, secretary comes, secretary goes, and it has just happened, right? His young brother who say it just happened, and it frustrates all of us. It frustrates all of us because for us in the executive, we are inundated with the complaints. Like, look how long I did this service. They're owing me for providing security services. I'm walking into one of our buildings recently, and the cleaner is coming to say, look, I ain't get paid for 4 months. And I'm paying the staff here who are to clean a building, but 4 months, and I ain't collect a check in 4 months, right? And the reality that is unfortunate, and that is unacceptable. I go as far as it's unacceptable, because it's not just sometimes you only hear about it on occasions when workers get their salaries late, but the service providers have been receiving their payments late, and they have been receiving payments late even when there is money in the vote, meaning even when the division has releases available to them, they still receive their payments late. And that's another reason why we have to move to digital platforms, because this thing where we have these massive vote books in front of us and somebody coming there, sitting down and just writing across in a line whole day, you're just writing. I mean, I used to work in accounts in the early 2000s. I used to work in accounts, so I can tell you, I know, I've experienced it myself. And you're there whole day, and then some department come in the middle of that with their requisition book, and they want to purchase order now. So you have to put a pause on that and take up the requisition book. You do the purchase order for them, and you get a sign off by a supervisor, and then you return to that, and then they say, okay, no salary coming up, so I have to pause this now, I have to go and deal with salary. That cannot be the most efficient way to run this system. We have to move to digital platforms, and that's why we prepared for what we call IFMIS. The only challenge with IFMIS is that it's supposed to be a national program. We were asked to prepare. We did everything we're supposed to do in Tobago, put all the systems in place, shut down accounts that we had all over the place, reduce it to a handful of accounts, and then Trinidad said, well, hold on, we aren't ready yet. And that has stalled us. But we need to move to digital platforms, even with our accounting. That's the only way to address the situation in terms of speedy recovery rate, speedy payments to individuals who have in fact provided this service. Especially when the matter is simple. I'm talking about where a contractor do our work and you have queries about the quality of the work, and so you have to audit it. I'm talking about that. Once the work is completed, it's done to scope, it's done to spec. It meets all the requirements. You have your certificate of completion and so on. People should be collecting their checks.
I am so happy to hear this, and of course the e-tender is hoping to come on stream from the same 1st of July, if memory serves me right, when I sat in that meeting.
Yes, so we're going to do some training between now and in the month of June to ensure that the service providers are properly apprised, they're trained, they're ready, they're able to use the system. It is very simple. It's not difficult to manage at all, so it's nothing too complex or too complicated. So by the beginning of July, we will be able to effectively say, as of now, as of midnight, July 1,
that's right.
we will go completely electronic in our tendering process.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us this morning. We've been speaking with the Chief Secretary of the Tobago House of Assembly, the Honourable Farley Chavez Augustine, of course, bringing some clarity and restoring some confidence as it relates to attending to the crime situation here in Tobago, speaking to the reshuffling of the THA, and also the economy in terms of the e-tender, contractors being paid on time, service providers being paid on time, and of course the fact that we're moving to a digital platform where things will be more seamless, and we're hoping to get our payments on time for those of you who provide services and goods to the Tobago House of Assembly. In closing, is there anything you want to share with our viewers this morning?
I want to close where we started on the matter of crime, and it's not to daunt the public, but to give Tobagonians hope. The Tobago, I know, is a very resilient community. The Tobago, I know, is an island community that can pass through hell and come away with a slice of heaven. The Tobago, I know, is an island community that understands how to take whatever little resource we have and to make the best and the most out of it, and to wow the world with it. This is the island that essentially created goat and crab races when our people just could not afford and was locked out of horse racing. This is the island who have taken the trauma of colonization and has created performing arts out of it, that we could dance to music about it. This is the island that at one time appreciated our spirituality and understood that we must remain close to God if we are to remain safe and successful. In fact, at one time, it was joked about that most traffic in Tobago occurred on a Sunday morning with people just trying to go to church. a lot of that has changed, and progress and modernity has caused families and individuals to move away from some of our moral foundations. And perhaps this is a time for recentering and refocusing and reshuffling of hearts, reshuffling of minds, and reshuffling of morals. Perhaps this is a time for introspection, for each of us to sit and to look inward and ask ourselves, what can I do to help save my island, and how can I do it better? But here's the good news, Tobago. Our paradise has not been lost. Our paradise is still here. We still have the greatest little island on the planet that we can work with. And for that to remain, it means that all hands must be on deck. It's not Farley and them thing. It's not Farley police force or Farley government. It's not Farley and friends thing. It's about how all of us as a collective can contribute towards making this island even better. And yes, we can make it better. We should never be satisfied with even the successes we have now. It's about how do we make it better? How do we continue to grow? And how do we truly become the greatest little island on the planet? I believe in that. And I want you to believe in that too. There's a camera, look at me. I want you to believe in that too. I want you to appreciate that you have a role to play. You have a role to play in making Tobago the success it can be. You have a role to play in ensuring that we can do better. It's all of us. It's all our thing. All of we are one big family. In fact, our families are larger than our villages. And so even this challenge we have with crime can truly be solved if all of us get involved. If all of us ensure that we push the guns out and save our young men. If all of us ensure that we utilize our social institutions in the most productive manner possible. If we show up to work in the morning and we put in the work, so I don't have to send people behind you to ensure that you're putting in the work that you've been paid for. If we're not trying to con the system and taking sick days when we really ain't sick, all of those things, it boils down to all of us. The smallest thing matter. And so I'm saying, Tobago, we have not lost this island as yet. And we will not lose this island. We'll fight and push back and save this island. And the negative external forces that are coming in, we will keep them out and continue to keep them out so as to save this paradise of ours. We will not lose this Tobago. Thank you. Thank you
very much there, our Chief Secretary, coming in there with so much passion in terms of saving our beautiful Tobago and maintaining that mantra, the greatest little planet on the earth, marrying our progress together with our community sort of behavior. We want to ensure that our behaviors are, conducive to productivity on the island here of Tobago. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for staying with us till the end of this conversation. This is where we end the morning show and Tobago updates this morning. But this is not where we end our programming. We head on over to Tobago Notes and then to GMT. So stay with us. And while you stay with us, of course, we invite you to help us share the live, share the live, share the live.